To all the people all around the world. Ooh la 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 la.
Hello, everybody. We are here again. Hello, Sarah. How are you doing?
Hi, Trinity. All good. Today is a good day. What about you?
So today we're going to talk about perfectionism, the inner critic again, our best friend, the inner critic, and the fact that the inner critic sometimes kind of like immobilizes us. It's kind of like, no, you're not going to do anything. Like there's so much perfectionism that we end up doing nothing because the inner critic is so strong. And it's our own experience with the inner critic, this idea of things being perfect, of getting recognition from external validation. And we will talk about this. Yes. And it's the perfect day to talk about this because this morning I woke up with a very strong inner critic. It was kind of like, it was killing me. It was telling me all the things. It was telling me, oh, you're a failure. And this is like the favorite phrase of the inner critic, saying, oh, you're a failure. You're doing nothing with your life. You ended up like creating nothing. What are you doing? You're not enough to do these things. And my inner critic used to be very big perfectionist. I remember in the past, having this, like every time I was doing something, I was always like checking it so many times and I was just like thinking about it so much. So this perfectionism was really draining all my energy when I was doing things that I loved, creative things, or basically anything, even just talking to people, I was always like rethinking what I was saying. It was crazy. And sometimes my inner critic goes to the opposite spectrum. So from perfectionist, he becomes like a destructive, like nihilist. So now this morning it was like, oh, you just who cares? What do you why do you even do these kind of things? It's pointless. Who cares? Just drop it, And that's the other side of perfectionism, because I know I want to do, the things I want to do. So it's not that I don't want to do them, but my inner critic is so ashamed and scared of failure that arrives at the point that it's like, okay, just don't do it, don't even try, what's the point of even trying? What's your experience with the perfectionism, my inner critic, Sarah?
Wow, it's interesting what you said, because I see that the inner critic has different techniques, to make us stop doing, or prevent us from doing. Either he tells you, like he needs to be perfect, or he tells you it makes no sense for you to do it because it's going to be shit, regardless what you do. So it's interesting to see that there are different strategies that he puts into place. And also,
smart.
Now we're talking, it's interesting that we both use the pronoun he. That for me, the inner critic is a he. I don't know, and it's
right.
Yeah, I don't know about you people listening to this video, what gender your inner critic is, but I see a very strict man in my head. But I have a huge experience with this topic, because the most common phrase that my inner critic would say is, you're useless, Sarah. So I've heard this sentence over and over again for almost 30 years of my life. And I realize how violent it is, no? Like, you're useless. Like it's in between, this perfectionism and nichilism. And this really prevented me from doing anything. I remember when we met, Trinity, I was really struggling with not being able to put anything into practice, because I really have a lot of ideas. I've always had, like in my whole life, I was the one having ideas on how to change things, on new things to do and everything. But then the inner critic would come and would tell me, Sarah, you already know that it's not going to be perfect. No one will care. You're useless anyways. You know nothing about this. Other people will do it better. So you can just as well sit in your room and do nothing. And this is what I did for so many years, because it's a defense mechanism, that the inner critic puts into place to protect us, from failure, because we fear failure. We think that, okay, if we fail, everyone around us will think we're stupid, we're useless, they will abandon us. So it's the poor inner critic is trying to protect us, from failing. But it gets to a point where, for me, I was so much struggling with this, because I wanted to share my ideas with the world, to put things into practice and to really embrace the unknown and try things out. But it was just so hard for me, because also another thing that the inner critic said to me is, you haven't studied this, you don't have a certificate or a piece of paper that tells you that I don't know, that you're a singer because you want to sing, or that you're a dancer because you want to dance. So without that piece of paper, without that certainty that I studied this and someone put a stamp on it, I was like, no, I cannot do it. Do you relate to this certificate kind of idea?
Yeah, so much. I think, as a society, we really rely on, the piece of paper, the external validation, someone that is telling this is the permission for you to say that, you can do this, and it's a really it's an ego mechanism, the inner critic and the ego are really, really related to each other. And the ego wants the validation, and it's okay, the ego needs the validation. It's okay to give it to it sometimes, but this doesn't need to become like a block, that kind of freezes you. If I don't have the certification, I can't even start, because sometimes we don't even allow ourselves to start things because we don't have the certification, we don't have the piece of paper saying that we can do this. But the reality is that you learn by doing. When we talk, me and Sarah, we always say that if we look at our own experience, once we gave ourselves permission to just start doing these things that we loved, without waiting for someone to come from the sky and telling us, this is your piece of paper, go out in the world and do it, but just kind of writing ourselves that piece of paper, going back and saying, these things are already inside of me, I don't need a piece of paper. This doesn't mean not studying at all, because studying is amazing. When you love something, you actually want to study that subject. But maybe finding your own rhythm, finding your own time, finding your own teachers, creating a path that is more suitable for you, and is more okay, just start practicing, just start actually embodying that thing that you want to do. Don't stop just because there's nowhere when there's written, oh, you can do this. So yeah, it's kind of giving our power away when we just rely all of our skills, our talent and gifts that are already inside of us, as we said, in the previous conversation. It's kind of saying, oh no, these gifts are real only if someone else tells me that are real. And this is really giving our power away. I'm not saying not learn from others, because of course everyone can be our teacher and we can learn so much. We've been both, studying singing and practicing, but the key for us was to just give ourselves permission to say, I sing. At least for me, this has been huge. This has been huge. Even before starting to go to singing, practice singing lessons, if I wasn't going to give myself permission to say, I sing, I was not going to start. It was just too much for me, even to say out loud, oh, I sing. That was so scary. I wasn't even giving myself permission to think about that was my gift, because I was like, who am I to say that? I'm nobody. But that's inside of you, that's your inner authority. So it's really about building that inner authority, that kind of confronts the inner critic, and says, hey, but you know what? Look, I can do this. Yes, of course, I can practice and I can get better, but this is already inside of me. I don't need a certification just to say that I sing. I'm already a singer. I was born a singer. I have this gift inside of me. I was born to speak to people. I was born to make music, you know. But we always wait for the outside validation just to give ourselves permission to say it out loud. You don't
Yeah.
say it aloud if it's not, you know?
Yeah, and for me, like, I really relate to this idea that I cannot say that I sing, because like for my whole life I've been thinking, oh, you haven't studied music theory, and I feel I'm less than all the people that actually studied music theory, and somehow we still sing, you know, and we still can sing, and we can even write songs, and you can, you know, make a
You did.
taste
So
that.
you're the living proof
Yes.
because Sarah wrote a song, but she didn't study music theory. So
No, not at all. And I wrote this song one day that I was feeling really down, and this message came, you know, to me, and I just wrote it down on a piece of paper. And then I don't play an instrument. I'm learning how to play ukulele. So I was like, okay, what can I do with the basic skills that I have with the ukulele? So I sat down and I found 4 chords that I know. I know about 10 probably. And I put them together in a way that it sounded fine, because I've listened to a lot of music in my life. So I have this trained ear somehow just to hear, okay, it sounds good or it sounds bad, you know? So I put those 4 chords together, the same strumming pattern that I always do, down, down, up, down, up. And then I sang it, and I realized I wrote a song. And of course, like, it's not the same as someone, you know, who has studied 10 years at the music school, but somehow it was my truth. It was something that I needed to share. And without having zero knowledge of music theory, I can swear to you, I have no clue. One can make music, you know, and the fact that you sing makes you a singer. The fact that you dance makes you a dancer, regardless of having the certificate or not. And this is what I think really prevents most of us from doing things, because we, as you said, we have these natural talents and gifts and skills that we're born with, but we don't dare, you know, appreciating and, you know, using them, because it's like, but no one from the outside told me that I can do it and gave me the certificate. So it's really, as you said, you know, taking all this power that we have, all this fire and this creative energy that we all have, and waiting for someone from the outside to tell you, okay, you can use it. And so we never use it, because we shrink, we keep it inside, because it's like, until someone tells me that I can use it, I won't. And I think the journey is really to, first, as we said in the previous videos, to really reconnect with those gifts and talents and the spark that we have, the seeds. So first you know, you reconnect with those, you go back to the inner child. What did she like to do? What did he like to do? And then after that, the really empowering step is to say, okay, I take these gifts and I tell myself that I'm good at it, that I can do it, and I can share them with the world. And that's the huge step, you know, and then saying, okay, one thing is to say, okay, I'm good at public speaking. Okay. But the other thing, the next step is like, do I dare speak in public? No. And until you do, you still live, you know, like in this cage where you think you're not enough. And it's as you were saying, also was really interesting. The more you do, the more you learn, and the more you practice, and the more you will do, which is also something that we never think, you know, like, we go to school, we go to university, there is no practice before, you know, like starting studying something. And of course, people when they're 18 years old, they have no clue what they want to study. But why? Because they never put anything into practice. So of course you cannot, you know, have an idea of, you know, what you want to do and what you're good at. Because yeah, theoretically I might like history, I might like music, I might like psychology, but how do I really know that I'm good at it if I haven't practiced before? So probably that's what's wrong with the educational system that we have
We
in the
need
world.
more practice. We need to allow ourselves to practice more. And
Yes.
yeah, how many limits, we put on ourselves. It's all about giving yourself permission and then dare. As you said, just can you really dare to give yourself permission to start doing that? To start just by with what you have. Like your example is perfect with the song. You just started with what you have. You
Yeah.
know what do we have? Okay, I have 10 chords, I have this movement, and I have just these words that wants to come out. What can I do with this? And you gave yourself permission, you dared to do that because you were through your own healing journey, not really through studying music. And
Yeah.
I don't want to say that you shouldn't study music, but I'm just saying that something else gave you the power, a
Yeah.
fire inside of you, not really like music theory. Was more like that inner authority telling you, go there, this is something that wants to move through you, and you can put yourself in this because it's really spontaneous. It's a true expression of you. And art, creativity, what's the point if it's not an expression of the person who's making it?
Yeah, true.
It was born to you know give a message, bring emotions, bring things, uniqueness, authenticity. That's, the point of art, creativity, and all this stuff. So
True.
you really, went through the real process, just, okay, these things wants to move from me. What tools do I have to translate it? And we all have tools. I mean, again, if that's your talent, you were born with it, that's your gift, for sure you have the tools. Maybe you don't have the theory, the music theory, but you've been listening to a lot of music. You inside of you, intuitively, there's something that is guiding you. So it's a lot about, I feel, giving recognition again also to that intuitive part inside of us, not just the logical. Because yes, studying is amazing, we need theory, we need to understand how things work and how to put them together, but at the same time, that's not the only way. Especially when it's about art and creativity, that's not the only way. That's actually, maybe the last way, because it's a lot about creativity. It's a lot about intuition, emotions, feelings. It's a very organic process. It's not a logical, mechanical process. But I feel like so far we've been really putting, this mechanical, logical process to things that maybe are not that logic and mechanical, anymore. They've never been. We're just discovering that they're not. So for me, for example, like working on my voice in this past almost 2 years, hasn't really been a technical process. It's been much more a healing process, like liberating my emotion. Through liberating my emotion, my throat chakra opened and opened more and more. And in that way, my voice just bloomed naturally because I was born with it. Of course, each one of us is different. So maybe some people need a little bit more technique, some people need less. But I was always blocked by the idea that I had to study years and years and years of music theory and scales and this and that. And I was just so bored at the idea. Because each one of us has a different method. Maybe there's somebody, and I'm sure there are a lot of people that are like, yeah, I love to learn scales, I love to learn about theory. Great, that's your way. But for me, it's always been such a oh my god, such a burden that was blocking me. So that meant that was like the inner intuition telling me, maybe that's not exactly your way, just find another route. But the way we live doesn't really allow us, there's nobody telling, yes, just try your own way, you can become a singer also if you just find your own way. No. So I was feeling so wrong. I was feeling, see, singing is not for you. You don't even want to study. Where the hell do you want to go, right? So that was the inner critic that was so attached to this. This is the way to do things, there's not another way. This is the way. And that blocked me so much, that really froze me for a lot of years, because I was feeling my voice was not enough, because I had a lot of wounds around my self-expression. And I was also feeling like, oh my God, so if I need to liberate my voice, I need to go through a lot of years of studying, and I don't even feel like singing. It was all so heavy. But just magically, life brought me on a different route, that starting just healing myself, healing my wounds. And this kind of like reignites something inside of me that also brought me into singing again. And the more I was healing myself and going into my wounds and feeling my emotion and staying with my emotion and taking care of my inner child, the more my voice came out.
Wow.
And there's been really little technique, it's just that our body already knows how to sing. Our body already knows how to dance. These are really like innate things that we have as humans, There's somebody that can do it in a way, somebody, but we all can sing. We all can dance, that we have a body that is
Amen. Yes.
designed to do that. So it's really about like, I feel like it's growing more and more, this idea that this kind of things are more about just peeling off rather than just adding up a lot of things and technique and study and do this and just put the body in this way, and you almost become like a robot. But more and more people are understanding that maybe there's another way, that it's actually removing all these things, all this shame. Because, again, what's the shadow emotion of the inner critic? Why he fears failure and failing and not being good enough at something? Because he's afraid of shame, of feeling shame, the protection mechanism that you were talking about. So, it's really about going into the shame and feeling it, because you will feel it. You can't really avoid it, but telling yourself that you can survive.
Wow, that's really
you can actually survive. You can feel shame and face it and say, okay, I'm actually stronger now. I felt the shame, I cried, I felt all the emotions, and now I can go through it. Do you relate with this?
A lot. And actually, it's interesting how I would say, before like sharing something really true to me, I feel this shame and I'm paralyzed, and I'm like, oh my God, everyone is gonna hate me, everyone is gonna laugh at me. But there is this jump that you can do actually once you have this strong authority that you mentioned before, in saying, okay, I feel the shame and I'm full of fear, and the inner critic voice is really strong. But the inner authority, I see it as taking my hand and saying, okay, we're going to survive. And once you do it, and once you share whoever you are, whatever your gifts are with the world, you can really see that you do survive. And actually, people are way more appreciative than what you would have expected before. It happened to me with the song that I wrote, with the podcast that I started, and I had no clue also about making podcasts. I was just like, talking to you, and I was telling you how much I loved speaking, and sharing, with my voice. And you were like, yeah, why don't you make a podcast? And I'm like, what? I have no clue about podcasts. And then I did it, I pushed myself. And I remember the first person I sent it to is my mom, and she doesn't even really speak very good English, but she could understand. But I needed, someone who I knew would be supportive. And then I sent it to you and to some friends, like really close friends. And I was terrified. And I remember waiting for the answer, and waiting for the people to listen to it and give me feedback. I was dying inside. But then somehow I got so much positive feedback, not like also a lot of constructive, negative feedback, let's say. But the only fact that I did it was already inspiring to people. And everyone was like, okay, I don't really maybe care about the topic of the podcast, but great job for doing it, for putting it out there. And the same with the song, like a musician listens to my song and it's like, Well, yeah, musically it can be better, and I know, but it's so true. And the lyrics is just, they came from my heart. So it's really important to make this inner authority strong enough by doing and doing and doing and proving to yourself that you will survive. And even, let's say, even if my song was shit, or the podcast was shit, or these videos are shit, like, what happens? Okay, we get some negative feedback and we will change something. We will have learned, like we went out there and we will change some stuff. And probably we realize, okay, we need to study something. But at least this comes after trying and seeing that we lacked some sort of technical skills. And nowadays, also, what I thought while you were speaking is like, we can learn in so many different ways, as you were saying. Like, we don't need to go to school, we don't need to go to make a course. Some people are self-taught, and it's like you can learn anything on YouTube. Like, we can become experts without having a certificate, just because, if you like to read, you might have read 1,000 books on the topic, you might have seen documentaries, you might have watched YouTube videos, you might have done online courses and stuff. And this is the certificate that you need. This is the reassurance that you know enough. And then the next step is to be strong enough to say, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna jump, and I'm gonna share it. And the first time is the worst. It was my worst nightmare when I did the podcast and I sent it out. I really literally was gonna die inside. But then I proved to myself that I can do it. And if I can do it, knowing nothing about podcasting, or if I could write the song knowing nothing about music theory, literally anyone can do it. It's just like, nudging yourself into like, okay, this is really scary. You feel fear, shame, everything. You want to control, you want to be perfect, but no, not at this time. Now you jump and you do it. And I think that the more you do it, the stronger your inner authority becomes.
Yeah.
And of course, I was also a bit, like fearful when I sent the link to our Inner Sono channel. But somehow I knew, already that we would survive, even if all our friends say, oh, okay, it's not that good. We would say, okay, who cares? We did it at least, no?
Yeah.
So you build up the strength, and the more you do, the more you can prove to yourself that you can go out there and share who you are, because we have survived, like you have sung, you have danced, you've created communities, you've done so many things, and you have survived. And I see you thriving, regardless of these days like today, where your inner critic is really strong and says, okay, nothing matters. Like, you are thriving and I am thriving, but because we reconnected with our inner child, we reassured them in terms like, okay, you're seen, you're heard, these are your talents. We re-embrace those talents and we pushed ourselves to share them with the world, and we survived. So here we are, like having jumped a few times and feeling really scared and petrified and stuff, but it works. You survive. This is, I think, the message of today,
Yeah. Confidence is a practice.
Mhm.
We're not born confident. It's a
No.
practice. The more you face shame, the more
Yeah.
shame you have on you, the harder it is, but the
Yeah.
more you can become strong, because you
Wow.
face so
Yeah.
much shame, and the more you face it, the more you integrate it, because you prove to yourself, I
Yeah.
can actually do this. I can actually feel
Yeah.
all this shame and hold it in my body and say,
Yeah.
I'm stronger than this. I'm not just this. I'm not just this shame. I'm also this strength, this fire, that you make space also for something else, It's not
Yeah.
really about eliminating shame. Shame will
No.
keep coming up. Will keep
Yeah.
coming up, in different things, it's really sneaky.
Yeah.
So maybe it doesn't come up in certain things anymore, but it comes back in others. So it's really like a practice, the more you push yourself to face the shame, the stronger you get, and the more you get reassured by your own self. So, there's this thing inside of you that you can do it. Even if it doesn't go well, you still learn so much about yourself. You got stronger, you got more resilient. And that's like so powerful. That's like the best, that you can get from life. And by you said, you learn by doing, and it's also like by doing, I think you get more confident, and you also discover what do you want to study. We were talking about study, because
Yes.
sometimes the inner critic always says, no, I need to know and study all these million things before I can start, because if I don't know all these things, I don't have control. Because this thing, about studying and perfectionism, it's all about control. It's all about this. It's all about the illusion that if I know everything, if I've studied everything, I will have the control on how things will go. But we don't have the control.
No,
You don't have it. We can have power over things, but we don't really have control. So it's a thing that we use to feel that we are in control. If I know all these things, if I've studied all the things, I am in control of what can happen. It's true to a certain degree that the more you are competent about something, the more you feel empowered in that. But if it goes to the extreme, that is kind of like, you need to know everything, single thing. You need to be perfect or you can't. That's, really, you end up freezing you. So again, just understanding that it's by doing that we start learning, just doing with what we have at the beginning. And by doing, we also discover what we like to deepen. Because if we don't do, it's all theoretical, as you were saying. How can I know what I want to do if I don't do it? It's just all in my mind. I don't even know how it feels for me to do that thing. So just start. And then by doing, you will for sure have the desire to study something, because you will say, oh, this maybe not, but this is, oh my God, this, I really like it. I want to know more about it. But maybe if you didn't start doing it, you would have studied something that wasn't really for you. And of course, also by studying, you discover what you don't like studying, but why not just by starting to do actually what you want to do?
True. Because there are so many people that studied something at uni, for example, and then at the end, you realize you don't want to do that in your life. I studied.
You still learned something for sure,
Course,
but maybe if you started doing it before,
Yeah, I studied to be an interpreter and translator, and I learned a lot. I loved it. I love languages. They fascinate me, but it's not what I really want to do as a profession, And then I realized after, 7 years of university, not 7, 5, but still, and I'm like, if I had implemented some of my ideas before, I would have learned, what I want to do, what is something that I want to study, that it's worth studying. And I've spent my whole life, just keeping every idea I had in my head. And I have a notebook with my ideas, and it's insane to see how long that list is. And I was never strong enough and courageous enough to say, okay, I will do it, And then it's like this fire that is kept, within you. And I started having a lot of headaches and migraines because I was only thinking. There was no outcome into the world. And this fire was really burning me from the inside, because we have the illusion that if we keep it inside, then we're fine. Okay, I keep it there, I keep it small. But this fire is, your creative energy, your authenticity, your expression. You can keep it inside, but it grows and grows, and it burns you from the inside, and you physically feel it. I used to feel I was shrinking, I was feeling small, I was feeling that I couldn't speak up, like all these also physical consequences and symptoms of like having this energy, which is building up inside, and there is never an outlet for it. So don't do what I did, keeping and shutting down all these ideas and all this creative energy, because then it really eats you from the inside. And the more you start expressing it to the outside, the more you find also like new things to learn, new people to work with and to collaborate with, like you,
things start moving.
yes, and people see you for who you are, and like instead of pretending and putting this mask on and saying, yeah, I keep myself small and I shut up and everything. And then the more you start expressing and sharing this fire, the more like the more you are you, and the more you are embracing your mission, because as we said, your mission in life is just being you,
Yeah,
being
we made a
authentic.
video about that. So
Yes. So, wow, powerful, no? We all have this beautiful fire, and we just need, to be brave enough, at least the first time, to really make the jump and say, okay. And you can also, I think, play around with it, and say, okay, maybe you can one day push yourself to sing in front of your friends, for example, which is already terrifying. And you're like, okay, today I push myself to do this, and you put some playfulness in it. Let's see what happens. What if I sing in front of some people today, and you see that you survive. So you can, it doesn't need to be serious. Also, as we said, like spirituality and healing can be fun. So play, like around with this shame and say, okay, what happens if I share this? What happens if I sing? What happens if I write a song? What happens if I dance? And it's a bit what we will do in our workshop in August, and it's really called Let's Play with Shame, because that's the point. We can play around with very serious topics, and have fun and reconnect with ourselves in a playful way.
and it's great that you mentioned this, doing things step by step, because I feel like the inner critic has this, perfectionist thing that it's also all or nothing. Perfectionism, nichilism, or you do everything perfectly or you just do nothing, So this thing that you said, just little by little, just put yourself out of the comfort zone, just this and that, and you build momentum, and you keep building and building and building, and that's how you build things. Sometimes we just go full on, and the inner critic just wants everything. We wants everything perfect, and so we need to be mindful of that. Just building that confidence. It's a skill, it's a practice, so it's just like step by step, day by day, and that's how you bloom, just day by day, step by step, by practicing those gifts, those seeds we were talking about in the last video, the seeds that were planted inside of you when you were a kid. They start finally blooming because they were there, but they just needed that time, that practice, that doing, learning by doing to bloom. And it's great that you talk about this fire, because it's really what can propel us to do this, to face the inner critic and just tell him, hey, just feel the fire. And it's great, Sarah is an Aries. Can you tell the energy,
Aries and Sagittarius rising, so there is so much fire. So when
oh
I
my
talk
god,
about
I can
fire,
feel it in my belly when you
wow,
talk.
like, yeah, I'm fire, and the problem is that I kept it inside, so it was really burning me from the inside. And now lately I've started sharing it, and it's beautiful, how also you inspire people while you do. I get so inspired by people around me who are just being themselves and doing, like whatever it's true to them. And so you can be inspiring to others. That's also nice, when they see your fire, they will be like, oh, wow, so I can do it too. So again, as we were saying last time, the spiritual and healing journey is not just an individualistic thing that we do, like we do it for others as well, because the more you show yourself and you survive, the more people will be inspired by that. Because it's like, okay, if Sarah wrote a song and she survived and she sang it and she knows nothing about music, then maybe I can do it too and I can survive. So again, like also you're doing it for all of
Yeah.
us, you know, it's a
So I
collective
invite you to
journey.
share the song in this channel because, you know, you can show everybody, you know, your song and inspire others with your beautiful, beautiful words. So
Let me
maybe, you
think
know, it
about
will be the next video, our
yeah,
Sarah singing the
maybe.
beautiful song with the with the with her ukulele. And yeah, so basically the message of this video of today is kill perfectionism by
Let's
doing, you know, just by
do, do,
practicing, by
do.
doing. Yeah, like, you know, it's really like the antidote somehow.
Yeah.
We're not really pushing the only do view of the world. We also know that we need rest. But just like, you know, kill perfectionism by getting yourself out of the
Yes.
comfort zone. So just by giving yourself permission to do those things, because as you
Exactly.
said, we live in a very heady society, and I feel that such a personal level.
Yeah.
I get stuck in my head so many times because of shame. I'm ashamed of this, and I keep thinking about this over and over, and all these ideas and all these things that I feel I would like to do that so much, but I'm so scared, I'm so ashamed, there's so much guilt, and we're stuck in the head, and we need to ground ourselves more.
Yeah.
Ground ourselves more in the fire that we feel inside of us. I need that safety, you know, so that the ground, that earth, the safety of feeling, oh, I can do that. I can actually do this. And we build this groundness by doing it, by showing ourselves that we can. So we get more and more into the body, you know, we kind of like bring the energy from here, we slowly bring it down. And of course, it's a practice, you know. As we said before, shame will keep come up in different areas of your lives. So, for example, we work a lot on creativity, and we, you know, we bring energy from head to body. So, you know, now we can sing freely. It's not like we're all like dance, you know, it's getting better and better. Before, every time we would start singing, we were just stuck in our head. We couldn't even do it. So we bring the energy down, and then it starts showing up in other areas, because it's keep facing that shame, you know.
Yeah.
Personally, now I'm facing that shame in sexuality, because, you know, and it's all like it all comes from the same, you know, ground, you know, the sacral chakra, you know, creativity, sexuality. It's all that this big energy that
Yeah.
ignites the fire of, you know, our willingness to do things. So there's so much things to heal in that area, you know, and so we start liberating our creative energy. We face that shame, then we start liberating sexual energy, and we start facing that shame and the body, and it's such a beautiful word, but it's really a self-discovery process. And the more you go into it, and the more you face new layers, you go deeper and deeper into layers, and you start really bringing all the energy that was stuck in your head for years and years of your life down into the body, and you also start feeling your body more. Actually, you live more in the body and less in the head. And once you start doing this, you really realize the difference. You start recognizing the difference of being in your head and being in your body. You really start seeing, recognizing yourself. Oh my God, in this moment, I'm not in my body. In this moment, I'm in my head. You start catching yourself easier, you know? And for sure, we could make a video about this, because I feel like he has a lot to do, you know, with creativity, working with the body, which is something that we love to do.
Yeah.
And we will do, you know, in our workshop that will happen in August, 6th
Yes.
and 7th of August in Berlin, called Let's Play with Shame. We will
Yes.
use the body, dance, theater, singing,
Voice.
voice, so
Yes.
many things to
Yes.
face shame. Face shame by playing with it,
Yes.
you know, proving to ourselves that we can put ourselves out there. We can do these things, feel that shame in a safe space, and see that, oh, I can actually do this. I actually enjoy this, you know? So yeah, it's
Can be
amazing.
fun.
Yeah.
Yes. So we're really excited.
Yeah, all the
We'll put
info are in the description. So if you
Yes.
want to join, just go to the description and discover our beautiful event that we can wait to hold. Yeah, you want to add something before we finish the
No.
video?
Just it was a beautiful talk as usual, and people out there, just put things into practice little by little, having fun, you know, not forcing yourself, but we can do it. We can all
do it.
share this fire, you know, that we have. And yes, again, you will see the link to the workshop, Let's Play with Shame. And yeah, subscribe to the
And hit the
channel.
bell button.
We need to say it, hit the bell button.
Yeah, we cannot finish the video without saying that. We wouldn't be on YouTube, so.
Exactly. So do that. And we will we will definitely have more talks really soon.
Yeah, it's beautiful because each time we talk something new comes, so we always have new topics. So this is you know, this shows that you progress by doing, you know.
Yes.
We get more ideas for new videos by doing videos.
Yes, definitely. So ciao everyone. Thank you for watching and see you soon.
Yeah, thank you so much. Bye.
To all the people all around the world, ooh la 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 la.